Captain Daewon Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, staring at the massive alien ship that had appeared in Earth's orbit 3 hours ago. It was like nothing humanity had ever seen. The vessel stretched for miles, its dark metal surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with an eerie purple light. "They're hailing us again." "Sir," said the communications officer. Daewon nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered to life, showing a creature that made everyone on the bridge go silent. The alien had 4 arms, skin that looked like gray stone, and eyes that burned like hot coals. When it spoke, a computer translated its words into English. "I am Ambassador Thelmer of the Velcrin Empire. We have claimed over 200 worlds in this galaxy. Your species will now serve us. You have no choice in this matter." Daewon kept his face calm, though his heart was pounding. "We are not interested in serving anyone. We are a free people." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. You have barely left your own star system. We could destroy your world in a day. Then why talk to us at all?" Daewon asked. "Because the Velcrin Empire is merciful. We give you 48 hours to surrender. Or, if you agree, you will live as our servants. If you refuse, we will show you what happens to those who defy us." The screen went dark before Daewon could respond. Down on Earth, Dr. Hanali was in an emergency meeting with world leaders. She was one of the planet's top experts on alien psychology, though until today, that had been entirely theoretical. Now it was terrifyingly real. "What do we know about them?" asked Admiral Una Park. The commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Hannah pulled up data on her tablet. "Not much. But from the way Thelmer spoke, I think the Velcrin expect us to surrender immediately. They seem to believe that showing force is enough." "They're probably right," said one of the politicians. "Look at what they have compared to us. We've only had faster-than-light travel for 10 years. They've been exploring the galaxy for who knows how long." Admiral Park stood up, her eyes hard. "So we just give up? Become slaves without a fight?" "Fighting would be suicide," another leader said. "Maybe," Park replied. "But I'd rather die free than live in chains." The debate went on for hours. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. In the end, they decided to ask for more time to make a decision. It wasn't a surrender, but it wasn't defiance either. The Velcrin did not like waiting. 20 hours after their first contact, the alien fleet struck. They didn't attack Earth itself. Instead, they targeted the mining station on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. 3,000 people worked there, extracting resources for Earth's growing space program. The attack took less than 5 minutes. The Velcrin warship fired a single beam of energy that cut through the station like it was made of paper. There was no time to evacuate. No time to fight back. No time for anything. Daewon watched it happen on his screens, feeling sick. They had killed 3,000 people just to make a point. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Admiral Park," his communications officer said quietly. Park's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. "The government is divided on what to do. Some still want to surrender, but I've made my decision. We fight. Admiral, with respect, we can't win this," Daewon said. "Probably not," Park agreed. "But we can make them regret ever coming here. I'm ordering all military vessels to battle stations. We're going to hit them with everything we have." Daewon felt a strange calm settle over him. "Understood, Admiral. What are your orders?" "I'm broadcasting a message to the Velcrin fleet. I want them to know exactly who they're dealing with." Park's message was simple and direct. It went out on all frequencies, in every language the humans could translate. "To the Velcrin Empire, you destroyed our mining station. You killed 3,000 innocent people. You think this will make us surrender? You're wrong. Humanity doesn't break. We bite back. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it from our cold, dead hands." The response from the Velcrin was swift. Their entire fleet began moving toward Earth. 200 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky with fear. But they also prepared. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Scientists who studied medicine started studying ways to fight. Even children asked their parents what they could do to help. Hannah worked day and night, studying every piece of data they had on the Velcrin. She discovered something interesting. In all their communications, the aliens never mentioned a species fighting back. They talked about conquests, about how many worlds they controlled, about their power. But they never talked about battles that lasted more than a few days. "I think they've never faced real resistance," she told Admiral Park. "Every species they've encountered has surrendered quickly. Then they don't know what they're getting into," Park said with a grim smile. Day One gathered his crew on the Indomitable. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also angry. The attack on Titan had shown them what the Velcrin thought of human life. "I won't lie to you," Day One said. "We're outgunned. We're outnumbered. We'll probably die out there. But we're not going to make it easy for them. We're going to show these aliens what humans are capable of." His crew cheered, though many had tears in their eyes. The Velcrin fleet arrived in Earth's solar system like a dark cloud. Their ships were huge, advanced, and terrifying. They moved into formation, preparing for what they thought would be a quick and easy victory. Ambassador Thelmer sent one final message. "Your time is up. Surrender now or face destruction." Admiral Park's response was to open fire. Earth's defense fleet was small. Only 75 military ships, most of them hastily armed cargo vessels and old patrol boats. Against 200 Velcrin warships, it should have been a massacre. The battle for Earth had begun. The Velcrin expected it to be over in hours. They had no idea that they had just made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. They had threatened humanity's home, killed human civilians, and demanded surrender. They were about to learn that humans don't surrender. They fight. And when humans fight for their home, they fight with everything they have, no matter the cost. The first human ship to die was the Horizon. It was an old cargo hauler that had been fitted with missile launchers just days before. The Velcrin battleship destroyed it with a single energy blast. But before the Horizon exploded, it fired every missile it had. 3 of them hit the Velcrin ship's engines. The alien vessel didn't explode, but it started drifting. Unable to maneuver. Captain Day One watched from the Indomitable as more human ships died. The Velcrin weapons were too powerful, their shields too strong. But the humans kept fighting. More than that, they kept adapting. "Sir, the Soul is making a suicide run," his tactical officer reported. Day One watched as the damaged patrol boat accelerated directly at a Velcrin cruiser. The aliens tried to shoot it down, but the Soul was too fast. It crashed into the enemy ship at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire. "They're insane," Thelmer said from his command ship. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. The humans were losing. Why didn't they surrender? Lieutenant Sora Choi was piloting an experimental fighter, one of only 5 that Earth had. Her mission was to gather data on Velcrin defenses. But when she saw 3 human ships destroyed in quick succession, she changed her plan. "Control, this is Sora. I'm going for the big one." "Negative. Sora, your orders are to observe only." "Orders changed," Sora said calmly. She pushed her fighter to maximum speed, heading straight for the largest Velcrin ship in the fleet. The aliens fired everything they had at her. Sora dodged and weaved, her hands moving faster than thought. Energy beams missed her by inches. Missiles exploded around her, shaking her small craft. But she kept going. "Almost there," she whispered. Her fighter was falling apart around her. Warning lights covered her control panel. At the last second, she pressed the button that would eject her AI co-pilot. The small unit shot away, carrying all the data they had collected about Velcron shields and weapons. Then Sora aimed her dying fighter at the capital ship's main reactor and closed her eyes. The explosion was visible from Earth. The massive Velcron ship broke in half, killing thousands of aliens. It was the first capital ship humanity had ever destroyed. "Did you see that?" shouted one of Day One's crew members. She actually did it. But Day One felt only sadness. Sora had been 23 years old. Down in the engineering section of Earth's largest space dock, a man named Wu Jinhan was having an idea. He had been studying the data that Sora's AI had transmitted before she died. There was something strange about the Velcron shields. "They're optimized for energy weapons," he said to his team. "Look at this. Their shields can absorb incredible amounts of energy. But what about physical impacts?" His team looked at the data. Wu Jin was right. The shields were designed to stop lasers and plasma bolts. But solid objects moving fast enough might punch through. "We need to tell the Admiral," one engineer said. Wu Jin was already calling. When Admiral Park heard his theory, she smiled for the first time in days. "We have railguns on some mining ships," she said. "They use them to shoot cargo containers between stations. Can we weaponize them?" "Already working on it," Wu Jin replied. Within hours, every mining ship, cargo hauler, and construction vessel in Earth's orbit was being fitted with makeshift railguns. They weren't pretty, and they weren't accurate. But they could shoot heavy metal slugs at incredible speeds. The Velcron didn't notice at first. They were too busy destroying military targets. But then a mining ship fired its railgun at a Velcron destroyer. The metal slug passed right through the alien shield and punched a hole in the ship's hull. "What was that?" Thelmer demanded. "Unknown, Commander. The humans are using some kind of primitive kinetic weapon." "Primitive?" Thelmer laughed. "Then it shouldn't be a problem." But it was a problem. More and more civilian ships joined the battle, all of them firing railguns. The Velcron shields couldn't stop them all. Ships started taking damage. Some were destroyed. Dr. Hana Lee was monitoring the battle from Earth, analyzing every piece of data they received. She had been studying the Velcron communications that human computers had intercepted and translated. What she found shocked her. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Hana said, her voice urgent. "Make it quick, Doctor. We're in the middle of a battle. The Velcron have never fought a war that lasted more than a week. Every species they've encountered has surrendered when they realized they couldn't win. They have no experience with an enemy that fights to the death." Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. "So they don't know how to fight a long war?" "More than that," Hana said. "I think they don't understand why we're still fighting. In their minds, we should have surrendered as soon as we realized we were outmatched. Then let's teach them something new," Park said. The battle raged for 3 days. Human ships kept dying, but so did Velcron vessels. What should have been a quick victory turned into a grinding fight. The aliens had better technology, but humans had something they didn't expect: determination. On the 4th day, something happened that shocked both sides. A civilian cruise ship, the Pacific Dream, emerged from behind the moon. It had been carrying tourists when the war started. Now, it was carrying a crew of volunteers and a nuclear reactor running at dangerous levels. "This is Captain Martinez of the Pacific Dream," a voice announced. "We're civilians, and we're done running. If we're going to die, we're taking some of you with us." The cruise ship accelerated toward the Velcron flagship. The aliens tried to stop it, but the ship had been reinforced with cargo containers full of metal. Weapons fire tore into it, but it kept coming. The Pacific Dream crashed into the Velcrin flagship at a significant fraction of the speed of light. The explosion destroyed both ships and damaged a dozen others nearby. Thelmer survived, but barely. His new command ship was smaller, less impressive. And for the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "Send a message to the High Council," he ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements. Commander, if we admit we need help, the Council will question our competence." "I don't care," Thelmer snapped. "These humans are not normal. They fight with obsolete weapons. They turn civilian ships into bombs. They refuse to accept that they've lost. We need more ships." The message went out, but it would take time for reinforcements to arrive. On Earth, Admiral Park gathered her remaining commanders. The defense fleet had been reduced to 40 ships. Orbital defenses were in ruins. They had lost over 10,000 soldiers and civilians, but the Velcrin had lost over 100 ships. "They're bringing in more forces," Day One reported. "Intelligence suggests another fleet is coming." "How many ships?" Park asked. "At least 500, maybe more." The room went quiet. They had barely survived against 200 ships. Against 500, they had no chance. "Then we make them regret sending them," Park said. "We've proven something important. We've proven that humans can hurt them. Now we need to prove that we can beat them." Woojin stepped forward. "Admiral, I have an idea. It's crazy, and it will probably fail. But if it works, we might actually have a chance." Everyone turned to look at him. "I'm listening," Park said, as Woojin explained his plan. Expressions changed from hopelessness to grim determination. It was a desperate gamble, but humans were good at those in space. The surviving Velcrin fleet maintained their positions, waiting for reinforcements. They had won, technically. Earth's military was shattered, but it didn't feel like victory, because the humans were still fighting, still refusing to surrender, still biting back. And deep down, the Velcrin warriors were beginning to wonder, what kind of species keeps fighting when they know they can't win? The Velcrin dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Thelmer had decided that orbital bombardment was taking too long. A ground invasion would be faster. 500,000 Velcrin warriors would land across the planet, secure major cities, and force humanity to surrender. It should have been simple. The Velcrin had done this on 200 worlds. Earth would be no different. They were very wrong. The first dropship landed outside Seoul. Velcrin soldiers marched out, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. The city looked abandoned. Buildings were empty. Streets were quiet. "Secure the area," the squad leader commanded. They made it 3 blocks before the first explosion. A building collapsed, crushing half the squad. The survivors looked around wildly, trying to find the enemy. "Contact, roof level," one soldier shouted. But before they could fire, more explosions erupted from underground. The street itself became a weapon, swallowing Velcrin soldiers in fire and debris. High above, watching through scopes, Colonel Taehyang Kwan smiled grimly. He had been a special forces operator for 20 years. He knew how to fight a larger enemy. You didn't meet them head on. You made them afraid of every shadow, every corner, every step. "All teams, execute harassment protocol," he spoke into his radio. "Hit them and vanish. Never stay in one place. Make them paranoid." Across the planet, similar scenes played out. The Velcrin quickly learned that taking a city didn't mean controlling it. Every building could be a trap. Every civilian could be a fighter. The humans didn't wear uniforms. They didn't gather in large groups. They simply appeared, attacked, and disappeared. In Shanghai, A 19-year-old woman named Ji Woo Nam watched 3 Velcron walkers march down her street. These machines were huge, standing 3 stories tall, armed with powerful weapons. They were designed to terrify populations into submission. Ji Woo wasn't terrified. She was angry. She had spent the last week learning everything she could about the enemy. She knew their walkers had weak points at the leg joints. She knew they relied on sensors that could be blinded. And she knew that sometimes one person with courage could make a difference. In her backpack, she carried explosives made from fertilizer and fuel. In her pocket, she had a stolen Velcron weapon she'd taken from a dead soldier. It probably wouldn't be enough. She did it anyway. Ji Woo waited until the first walker passed her hiding spot. Then she ran out, firing the alien weapon at its sensors. The walker's cameras exploded. Blind, the machine stumbled. Ji Woo threw her first explosive at its leg joint. The blast made the walker fall to one knee. The second walker turned toward her, its weapons charging. Ji Woo threw her second explosive and ran. She didn't see if it hit. She just ran as fast as she could. Behind her, both explosives detonated. The first walker collapsed completely. The second walker's leg was damaged, making it limp. The third walker fired at where Ji Woo had been, but she was already gone, disappearing into the ruins of a building. Unknown to Ji Woo, someone had recorded everything on their phone. Within hours, the video spread across resistance networks. Humans everywhere watched a teenager destroy 2 war machines with homemade bombs and stolen weapons. Thousands decided that if she could fight, so could they. Dr. Kyung-Soo Shin had a different approach to fighting the Velcron. He was a biologist, not a soldier. But he understood something important. Earth was humanity's home, and the planet itself was a weapon. The Velcron evolved on a dry, stable world. He explained to his team. Earth is wet, humid, and full of life. Life they have no immunity to. His first weapon was bacteria. Common Earth bacteria that humans lived with every day. He cultured the most aggressive strains and found ways to spread them through Velcron encampments. Within days, alien soldiers started getting sick. What humans called a simple infection was often fatal to Velcron. Then came the insects. Earth had trillions of them, and many bitter stung. Kyung-Soo didn't create anything new. He simply studied Velcron biology and identified which Earth insects would affect them most. Mosquitoes became a plague. The Velcron armor could stop bullets, but not tiny insects that got into every gap. Fungus was even worse. Kyung-Soo discovered that certain Earth fungi could grow on Velcron equipment and even on their skin. Once infected, the aliens faced painful, difficult-to-treat conditions. "You're weaponizing our entire planet," one of his assistants said, sounding shocked. "Yes," Kyung-Soo replied simply. "They invaded our home. Our home is fighting back." The Velcron medical facilities were quickly overwhelmed. Soldiers died from infections that seemed minor at first. Others went mad from pain and fever. The warriors who had conquered hundreds of worlds were being defeated by organisms too small to see. Colonel Taehyun's tactics were working even better than planned. His forces never fought fair battles. They struck at night. They ambushed supply lines. They targeted officers and communication equipment. They used traps, snipers, and psychological warfare. The Velcron found their dead arranged in disturbing patterns. Messages in alien languages appeared on walls. Patrols disappeared without any trace. The warriors started to believe that Earth itself was haunted. "This is not normal warfare," a Velcron commander reported to Thelmer. "We cannot predict them. We cannot corner them. Every victory is temporary because they simply return later. They're primitives with primitive weapons," Thelmer insisted. "Increase patrols. Show more force." But more force didn't help. It just gave the humans more targets. Ji Woo had become a legend. Other young people formed groups, using her tactics. They called themselves Jiwoo's Warriors, though she never asked for that. She was too busy planning her next attack. She had learned that Velcron command centers could be identified by their energy signatures. She also learned that stolen alien weapons could overload and explode if modified correctly. It was dangerous, extremely dangerous. But everything was dangerous now. Her next target was a command bunker that Velcron forces had established in an old government building. Jiwoo studied it for 3 days, noting patrol patterns and shift changes. Then, on a rainy night, she made her move. She wasn't alone this time. 5 others had joined her, all of them volunteers. They didn't know each other's real names. They didn't need to. The attack took 7 minutes. They killed the guards silently, placed explosives at key points, and set the timers. By the time the Velcron realized what was happening, Jiwoo and her team were gone. The explosion destroyed the entire building. More importantly, it destroyed the communication hub that coordinated Velcron forces across the region. For hours, enemy units were unable to communicate with each other. Human resistance fighters used that time to hit dozens of targets. Thelmer was furious. How can primitives do this? They should be cowering in fear. His aide hesitated before speaking. Commander, I believe we have made assumptions that were incorrect. The humans do not think like the species we have conquered before. Explain. Every other species surrendered when we demonstrated superior force. They accepted that continued resistance was illogical. But humans do not care about logic when defending their home. They care about pride, honor, freedom. These concepts drive them to fight even when fighting is hopeless. Thelmer stared at his aide. Are you saying we cannot defeat them? I am saying that traditional conquest will not work. We can kill millions of them, but there are billions more. And each one seems willing to become a warrior if necessary. The situation was getting worse. Velcron casualties were mounting, not just from combat, but from disease, accidents, and even suicide. Some warriors, unable to stress of constant attacks, took their own lives. Earth's environment was hostile in ways the Velcron had never experienced. Temperature swings gave them problems. The humidity ruined equipment. Even Earth's higher gravity was exhausting them. After 3 months of ground combat, the Velcron controlled almost nothing. They held their landing zones and a few major buildings. But they couldn't move freely. They couldn't secure resources. They couldn't break human resistance. Send a message to the High Council, Thelmer finally said. Tell them ground invasion has failed. Request permission for orbital bombardment. Commander, that will make this world uninhabitable. There will be nothing left to conquer. Better to destroy it than to admit we were defeated by primitives, Thelmer said bitterly. The High Council agreed. If the Velcron couldn't have Earth, no one would. The entire fleet, over 2,000 warships, jumped into the solar system. Their orders were clear: burn Earth until nothing lived on its surface. Humanity had won the ground war. But now they faced total annihilation from space. They had 48 hours before the bombardment began. Admiral Una Park stood in the command center, looking at the display that showed 2,000 Velcron warships entering the solar system. Earth's remaining defense fleet numbered less than 100 vessels. Most were damaged. Many were civilian ships with makeshift weapons. We can't win this, one of her officers said quietly. No, Park agreed. Not in a fair fight. Captain Day One's face appeared on her screen. His ship, the Indomitable, was barely holding together. Admiral, what are your orders? How many pilots do we have who are willing to make one last flight? Day One understood immediately. All of them, ma'am. Every single one. Park nodded. She had expected that answer. Good, because I have a plan. It's going to cost us everything we have. But it might, just might, give us a chance. She called an emergency meeting with all remaining commanders. Dr. Hannah Lee joined via video link, her face exhausted but determined. Dr. Lee has been analyzing Velcrin communications for months, Park began. Hannah, tell them what you found. Hannah pulled up data on the screen. The Velcrin Empire isn't as unified as they claim. It's held together by fear and reputation. They've convinced their subject species that the Velcrin are invincible. But they've been hiding something important. They've been hiding their losses. What do you mean? Asked one commander. They told their empire that they took Earth without losses. They've been lying about our resistance. If we can prove they're not invincible, if we can defeat their fleet decisively, it could start rebellions across their territory. That's a nice theory, another officer said. But we still have to survive first. Park smiled coldly. That's where my plan comes in. We're going to do something the Velcrin won't expect. We're going to attack them. The room erupted in confused voices. Attack? With less than 100 ships against 2,000? Listen, Park said firmly. The Velcrin are confident. They think this will be easy. So they'll come in close formation, ready to bombard Earth all at once. But we've been preparing for this. She explained the plan. It was insane. It was desperate. And it was their only chance. Over the past months, while fighting the ground war, human ships had been quietly seeding the solar system with mines. Not traditional mines, but nuclear weapons disguised as debris. The Velcrin sensors were good, but they weren't looking for weapons that looked like random junk floating in space. Phase 1, Park said. Captain Day 1 leads an attack that draws the Velcrin fleet into close formation, right into our minefield. That's a suicide mission, someone said. Yes, Day 1 replied calmly. I know. Phase 2, Park continued. We detonate the mines. In the chaos, every civilian ship, every station, every piece of human technology that can move launches itself at the Velcrin fleet. We're going to use everything as a weapon? An engineer asked. Everything, Park confirmed. Cargo ships, passenger liners, space stations, satellites. If it can move and has a reactor, it becomes a missile. Phase 3, she said, looking at each person in the room. While the Velcrin are reeling, I lead our remaining forces to capture their flagship. We need to get footage of us beating them. We need proof that they can be defeated. The room was silent. They all understood what this meant. Most of them would die. Even if the plan worked, the casualties would be enormous. I'm not ordering anyone to do this, Park said quietly. I'm asking for volunteers. Every single person in the room volunteered. The Velcrin fleet moved into position around Earth. Massive and terrible. Thelmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, satisfied. The humans had fought well for primitives, but this was the end. Begin bombardment on my command, he ordered. Commander, sensors detect human ships approaching. How many? 30 vessels, sir. Thelmer laughed. They're going to attack us? With 30 ships? This is either bravery or insanity. Perhaps both, his aide suggested. Captain Day 1 led his small fleet directly at the Velcrin armada. He knew he was going to die. They all knew. But they were going to make it count. All ships, spread out, he commanded. Make them work for it. Draw them in closer. The Velcrin took the bait. Their fleet tightened formation, wanting to finish the humans quickly. They fired, and human ships started to die. The Defender exploded. Then the Valiant. Then the Hope. But the human ships kept coming, dodging and weaving, making the Velcrin chase them deeper into the minefield. Now. Day 1 shouted dot across the solar system. Hundreds of nuclear mines detonated at once. The space around Earth became a storm of fire and radiation. Velcrin shields held against some blasts, but not all. Ships collided in the chaos. Others lost power. Many simply exploded. "What is this?" Thelmer screamed. "How did they mine our approach?" His aide was frantically checking sensors. "Commander, more contacts." "Hundreds of them. They're all heading toward us." What came next would be remembered forever. Every civilian ship in Earth's orbit, piloted by volunteers, accelerated toward the Velcrin fleet. They had no weapons except their own mass and velocity. But at relativistic speeds, mass was enough. A cargo ship carrying ore slammed into a Velcrin cruiser, punching straight through its hull. A passenger liner, once a luxury vessel, became a missile that destroyed 2 destroyers. Even small shuttles and maintenance pods joined the attack, piloted by people who knew they wouldn't survive. The Velcrin fleet, so proud and powerful, suddenly found itself in a fight for survival. They had expected to bombard a helpless planet. Instead, they were surrounded by hundreds of suicide attacks and still reeling from the nuclear explosions. Admiral Park led the remaining military vessels toward the Velcrin flagship. "All ships, concentrate fire on that target. We need to board it." The indomitable, barely functional, covered Park's approach. Day One and his crew fought like demons, taking damage but not stopping. They cleared a path through the Velcrin defenses. "Park, go now," Day One shouted. "Thank you, Captain," Park replied. "It's been an honor, Admiral." Those were the last words they exchanged. Seconds later, the Indomitable took a direct hit to its reactor. The ship exploded, taking 3 Velcrin vessels with it. Park felt tears on her face, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Her assault ship latched onto the Velcrin flagship's hull. Cutting torches burned through the armor. Human Marines poured inside, and brutal close-quarters combat began. The Velcrin were strong, but humans had evolved on a high-gravity world. They were stronger, faster, more aggressive. And they were fighting for their home. Dr. Hannah Lee was with the boarding party. She had insisted on coming, arguing that she knew the Velcrin psychology better than anyone. She carried a gun she barely knew how to use, but she was determined that they fought their way through corridors that seemed designed for giants. The Velcrin defenders were fierce, but the humans were relentless. Every meter was paid for in blood, but they kept advancing. Hannah found herself face to face with Thelmer himself. The ambassador who had demanded Earth's surrender stood before her, weapon in hand. "You cannot win," Thelmer said. "Even if you take this ship, you are still doomed." "Matey," Hannah replied, "but we'll take you with us." She fired. She was a terrible shot, but at close range, it didn't matter. Thelmer fell. Admiral Park reached the bridge minutes later. Human soldiers secured the area, and Park activated the broadcast system. She ensured every communication channel was open, sending to Earth, to the Velcrin fleet, and to the entire galaxy beyond. "This is Admiral Una Park of Earth," she said, blood on her face, exhausted but standing tall. "You're looking at the bridge of the Velcrin flagship. We've taken it. We've destroyed over half your fleet. Your commander is dead." She paused, letting that sink in. "The Velcrin told you they were invincible. They lied. We've defeated them. We're human. We don't surrender. We don't forget. And we've just become your neighbors. Any species that attacks us will face the same fate." The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was decided. The Velcrin fleet broke. Some ships tried to fight and were destroyed. Others tried to flee. Only 73 ships escaped. Earth had won. But the cost was terrible. 2 billion people were dead. Earth cities were in ruins. The defense fleet was gone. Almost everyone who had fought in the final battle was dead. But Earth was free. And across the galaxy, the impossible had happened. A primitive species had destroyed a Velcran fleet. 6 months after the battle, Earth was slowly healing. Cities were being rebuilt. Fields were being replanted. The dead were mourned, but life continued. That was what humans did. They survived. Ambassador Hana Lee stood in what had been a Velcran warship and was now her office. She had traded her gun for a diplomat's briefcase, though she kept the weapon as a reminder. Around her, representatives from 40 different alien species waited nervously. These were species that had been enslaved by the Velcran Empire. When they saw humans defeat their oppressors, they had risen up in rebellion. Some succeeded. Some failed. All wanted to meet the species that had done the impossible. "Thank you for coming," Hana said through a translator. "Earth is honored to meet you." A representative from a species called a Talner spoke first. They looked like large birds with 4 arms. "We watched your broadcasts. We saw you defeat the Velcran. We want to ally with you. With your strength, we can—" "Stop," Hana interrupted gently. "We need to be clear about something. We didn't win because we're strong. We won because we were defending our home and had nothing left to lose. Don't mistake desperation for superiority." Another alien, a Greshik who resembled a walking insect, clicked its mandibles. "But you have proven that the Velcran can be beaten. That is what matters." Hana nodded. "Yes, they can be beaten. And we're willing to help any species that wants freedom. But we won't become new conquerors. Earth offers alliance, not domination." Over the next weeks, Hana negotiated carefully. The result was the Terran Coalition, a mutual defense pact. Any member attacked by an outside force would receive help from all others. But each species remained independent. "It's not perfect," Hana told Admiral Park during one of their meetings. "Some species want us to lead them. Others are afraid we'll become another empire." Park, who had been promoted and was now overseeing Earth's reconstruction, nodded. "Let them be afraid. A little fear means they'll respect boundaries. But we need to be careful, Hana. We've made a lot of enemies." She was right. The Velcran Empire was in civil war, but remnants of their military were regrouping. They wanted revenge. And they weren't the only ones watching humanity now. General Taehyun Kwan had a different job these days. He traveled to liberated worlds, training their resistance fighters in human combat tactics. He taught them about guerrilla warfare, about psychological operations, about making every citizen a potential defender, on a world called Kelrith. He addressed a group of former slaves who wanted to learn. "First lesson," Taehyun said, "war is not about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest and the most determined. The Velcran were stronger than us. But we won because we never stopped thinking, never stopped adapting, and never stopped fighting." A young Kelrith raised a tentacle. "But humans are naturally aggressive. We are not warriors like you." Taehyun shook his head. "Before the war, I was a teacher. My sister was a doctor. My best friend was an artist. We weren't warriors either. We became warriors because we had to. Any species can do the same if they have a reason to fight." He showed them footage from Earth's battle. Not the glorious moments, but the desperate ones. Civilians fighting with improvised weapons. Scientists weaponizing biology. Engineers turning cargo ships into missiles. "This is what humans are really like," Taehyun explained. "We're not super soldiers. We're stubborn people who refuse to give up. That's what defeated the Velcran. And that's what you can be too." Back on Earth, engineer Woo Jin Han was leading the reverse engineering of Velcran technology. The captured ships and equipment were treasure troves of advanced science. "They're faster than light drives, are years ahead of ours," he explained to his team. "But their weapons are inefficient. They rely too much on energy shields and not enough on armor. We can improve on this. Within months, Earth's new ships combined Vulcan speed with human durability. They weren't pretty, but they were effective. More importantly, they were designed with the lessons learned from the war. Every ship could fight even when heavily damaged. Every weapon system had backups. "We're building a fleet designed to take punishment and keep fighting," Wu Jin told Admiral Park during an inspection. "Just like humans." But not everyone on Earth was happy. Some people wanted revenge. They wanted to hunt down every Vulcan and make them pay. Others wanted to hide, to never interact with aliens again. Hannah addressed these concerns in a speech that was broadcast worldwide. "We were attacked. We suffered terribly. But we won. Now we have a choice. We can become the thing we fought against, using our new strength to conquer and dominate. Or we can be better. We can show the galaxy what humanity really stands for: freedom, cooperation, and the courage to protect those who can't protect themselves." It was a good speech. But Ji Woo Nam had a different perspective. She had become a symbol of resistance, her face known across multiple worlds. But she didn't feel like a hero. "I did what I had to do," she told a reporter. "We all did. Now we need to make sure those deaths meant something. We need to build a future worth the sacrifice." At 19 years old, Ji Woo was helping design Earth's new defense systems, ensuring that humanity would never be caught unprepared again. Then something unexpected happened. 3 ships arrived in Earth's orbit, unlike anything humans or even the Vulcan had seen. They were ancient, elegant, and powerful. The Archons had arrived. Admiral Park met with them personally. The Archons were an old species, perhaps the oldest in the galaxy. They had watched other species rise and fall for 50,000 years. Their leader, who called itself Kelthorn, spoke in perfect English. "We have observed your conflict with the Vulcan. You surprised us humans. Few species have your persistence." "Thank you," Park said carefully. She wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. "We come with a warning and an offer," Kelthorn continued. "The Vulcan were dangerous, yes, but they served a purpose. They kept worse things at bay. Beyond civilized space, there are species that make the Vulcan look kind. Now that the Vulcan Empire is broken, those species may come looking for new territory." Park felt a chill. "And your offer?" 3 choices. 1. Accept Archon protection. "We will defend your worlds, but you must follow our guidance." 2. Face what comes along. 3. Join us as equals. Help us defend the galaxy from the threats beyond. And if we choose the first option, this protection, what would that really mean? Kelthorn's expression was unreadable. It would mean safety. It would also mean limits on your expansion, on your military, on your independence. "Then that's not really protection," Park said. "That's just a gentler form of slavery." The Archon was silent for a moment. "You are very direct, Admiral. We just fought a war for our freedom. We're not giving it up to anyone, even someone claiming to protect us. And facing the outer darkness alone?" Park smiled. "We've faced impossible odds before. If these threats come, we'll fight them too. But we'd rather fight alongside allies than under masters." Kelthorn made a sound that might have been laughter. "Very well. The Archons accept humanity as equals. We will fight together, but we will not rule you." After the Archons left, Park's staff celebrated. But Park herself was thoughtful. "You don't look happy," Hannah observed. "I am," Park said. "But I'm also realistic. We've won our freedom, but now we're part of something bigger. There will be more fights, more wars, more sacrifices. Do you regret it?" Hannah asked. "Choosing to fight instead of surrender?" Park thought about Captain Day One, about Lieutenant Sora, about the billions who had died. Then she thought about Earth, free and strong and building a better future. No, she said finally. Never. Freedom is always worth the cost. 3 months later, Earth dedicated a memorial to those who had died in the war. It was a simple stone wall with 2 billion names carved into it. People came from across the planet and even from other worlds to see it. Hannah gave the dedication speech. She stood before humans and aliens, young and old, soldiers and civilians. They said we were primitive, she began. They said we would break. They said we would surrender. They were wrong. Not because we're human, but because we refuse to let others define our limits. We don't fight because we're the strongest. We fight because freedom is worth dying for. And we'll keep fighting alongside anyone who shares that belief for as long as it takes. As she spoke, a young child asked their parent a question. Will there be more wars? The parent didn't lie. Probably. But we'll face them together. That's what humans do. Above Earth, the new defense fleet patrolled. Ships designed by Woojin, crewed by volunteers, ready for whatever came next. They bore names like Indomitable II, in honor of those who had fallen. Across the galaxy, 40 species looked to Earth with hope. The Velcran remnants looked with fear and hatred. The Archons looked with respect and curiosity. And the beings in the outer darkness, if they existed, would soon learn what the Velcran had learned. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy. They were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest or the oldest or the most advanced, but they were the species that refused to give up. The species that turned every disadvantage into a weapon. The species that would rather die free than live in chains, and anyone who wanted to conquer them would learn what the Velcran learned. Humans don't break, they bite back, and they never, ever forgive those who threaten their home. Started.